This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
What's going on, movie fans? It's JB. It is another episode of Master Rating, episode number 3 to be exact, and it is Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, arguably my favorite of the series. It really comes down to 1 and 3. Is it 3, 1, or 1, 3? I don't know. It is such a damn toss-up. I'm not for sure which one I like the best. It is truly close. This is one of the classic movies of the horror genre in general. And the fact that this movie was able to revitalize the series is amazing. Now, think of another horror franchise where the third movie is arguably the best. I mean, honestly, I'll wait. Sure as shit wasn't Texas Chainsaw. Friday the 13th? I don't think so. Halloween? That's really funny. I mean, come on, people. Saw 3. What else we got? Who am I leaving out? Child's Play 3. I like that movie. That's a good one. Nowhere close to Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Wait a minute. Child's Play 3. Was that the one where the kid was grown up and he was in, like, military school? It is. That's the one when Chucky takes all of the blank rounds out of the guns and loads them with live rounds. They just start killing each other. That's an electric factory of a movie. Oh, yeah. But, again, it's not as good as Dream Warriors. That's what we're covering today, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. If this is the first time you've listened to Master Rating, please check out our other episodes. We're in the Nightmare on Elm Street coverage right now. We're releasing 2 a week right now because I got to kick this Master Rating podcast into overdrive so I can cover more of the major franchises in horror. It's October. It's Halloween. It's Master Rato-ween. Wow, that's a weird one. That's why you think of shit before and not on the fly. I want to get more horror franchises in, but we'll get there when we get there. Right now, we're talking Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors 3, everybody. So, subscribe to the podcast, please. We release, right now we're doing 2 a week, but this is a weekly podcast, Master Rating. Subscribe on iTunes, leave a 5-star review. Obviously, this is a branch of JB Sports Radio, daily podcasts uploaded to the channel, daily sports content. We cover it all, every single one, football, hockey, baseball, basketball. We got you covered. We don't cover soccer because we're not communists, so we're definitely not covering that. But listen, go to jbsportsradio.com right now. You can listen to our entire podcast catalog. You can also listen to it on iTunes. But if you go to jbsportsradio.com, you can hit our sponsors, Seat Giant, Savage Squad, DFS. You can read all the blogs from our amazing blogging crew we have over there. So go check out jbsportsradio.com. All right, let's talk a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. It's the Dream Warriors. So that's going to be at the end of the show. I'm going to close the show out with the song from Dokken, the Dream Warriors song. Awesome song. As a matter of fact, I opened the show with Into the Fire from Dokken. Why did I choose the band specifically? Well, because this movie skyrocketed them into commercial success with the hit Dream Warriors, obviously the title of the movie and their track on their album. So both are great songs. I've got them on my iTunes. Love those tracks. but I don't love those as much as I love this movie. This movie starts out, so let me break it down. Obviously, in the first movie, you had Nancy, you had Krueger, you had the very origins of A Nightmare on Elm Street. The movie ended. It looked like that Freddy Krueger got them. He killed Nancy's mother, pulled her through the window. She looked like a rubber goddamn dummy doll. And Nancy and Johnny Depp, Tina, and the gangster dude or the biker guy, they were all alive at the end. But then at the very end, when they get in the convertible to drive to school, the top flies over because it was down. It flies back on top, and it's red and green. And then the car, Johnny Depp, Glenn, I think is his name, he can't control the vehicle, and it kind of ends where Freddy Krueger won. And then in the second movie, I covered it. Again, you should go check out the reviews I did with those shows because I cover them more extensively. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, was not the greatest movie. They completely got away from what the first movie was built on, which was fear, the Freddy Krueger killing you in the dream. Because in the second movie, he was like just a gangster. He just fucking was like, I don't need to be in the dream world. I'll just like bust out through Jesse because I'm trying to possess him or something. I don't know. He just rips right out of Jesse's body and comes into the real world. Like, you're supposed to bring him into the real world by like grabbing onto him. But somehow Krueger's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to pop out of this chest and have a good time. But then they finally brought Wes Craven back after the second movie bombed. I mean, it didn't bomb. Commercially, it was successful, but a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street fans were upset because they got away from what the original movie was. So they brought Wes Craven on as a writer for this movie. And Wes Craven did what Wes Craven does, or did. R.I.P. He did what he did best. He brought the movie back to basics. He went back to the foundation it was built on. And so what it is it's the last remaining children from the parents that burned Freddy Krueger alive. It's the last remaining kids. They're all locked up in the Springfield asylum, like juvenile detention center, and they're all, saying that they're being haunted by Freddy Krueger. And the guy who runs the group, who tries to do the group therapy, he's not getting through to the kids, and they end up bringing in a specialist. And guess who it is? It's none other than Nancy Thompson. Of course, my girl Heather Langenkamp, looking smoking. She comes back to the series. They bring in Wes. He brings back Heather Langenkamp to reprise her role as Nancy Thompson. So not only did she not die in the first movie, in the second movie, when they read the diary that she went crazy and insane, and I think at one point said that she killed herself, not only was that a fucking sham, instead of going crazy, she went to college, ended up becoming a fucking therapist, good paying job, and she decides to give therapy and help out these kids, because none other to help these kids what they're going through than the one where it all started with Nancy Thompson. So she rolls up in here. What it is, it's a group therapy session. It's being taken place, and the new main lead actress is played by I think it's Patricia Arquette, the sister of David Arquette, WCW World Champion. She is like the new lead girl. She is the new Nancy, and so her mom puts her in this detention center because she's going crazy. At the beginning of the movie, one of the best, it's not the best opening because the first one, Nightmare on Elm Street, opens with him creating his glove. It's very, real rustic. It's just a real gritty opening scene. But this movie opened up with Kristen, who is the new Nancy pretty much, doing paper mache, and she's building what appears to be a house, and it ends up being and she doesn't live in the house, but she ends up building the house that she sees in her dreams, which is 1428 Elm Street, the house that it all started on. And her mom comes in, she freaks out, she's like, "Why aren't you in bed? Blah, blah, blah." And she, by the way, this bitch was putting spoonfuls of coffee grounds in her mouth and washing it down with, I think, like Pepsi. I don't remember, but wild. And while she's building that house, by the way, she cranks the radio on, and it's Into the Fire, hence why I started the show off with that song. So she goes to bed. She ends up going into the dream world. She goes crazy. She goes into the bathroom and she cuts her wrists. Her mom comes in, sees that she's going crazy, puts her in this detention center. And this is where I started it first. So they're having this group therapy session, and Kristen, the new Nancy, it's the last time I'm saying it, she's going crazy, and then she jumps up in the middle of the group therapy session, and she starts saying, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, 3, 4, better lock your door, starts going through it. And before she can finish the rhyme, after awaiting the arrival of the new therapist, comes in Nancy Thompson and finishes the nursery rhyme, and this is where the movie really takes place. Like, this is when the movie kicks into overdrive. This is how the whole, and it all stems back to the originality of the movie, where the kids are being haunted only in their dreams. Okay? What ends up happening is Kristen, she ends up having the ability to pull other people into her dreams to help defend against Freddy. So she actually learns the power to pull like Nancy into her dream, and this ends up becoming the overall theme, the Dream Warriors, where they all band together to defeat Freddy. And that's where the movie that is the whole basics of this film. This is how it really pans out the whole movie. Now, I would say this movie arguably has the best kill scenes of the entire franchise. In the first movie, you had the epic, very scary killings. Tina in the bedroom right after she gets done banging the shit out of, I don't remember his name, but he's the biker guy. He can't see that it's Freddy because she's being attacked in her dream. Tina's being dragged across the ceiling, and then she gets gutted like a fucking fish. Johnny Depp, who plays Glenn, gets sucked into his bed, and then just massive gallons of blood go everywhere. And it's just really good kill scenes, but that's like the two big ones, right? Those are like the two major kill scenes, because the other one is where, Krueger hangs the biker dude in prison because they thought he was the one who killed Tina. In this movie, I mean, there's so many good ones, man. If you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert. This is the part, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch the movie. Because it will. I don't want to spoil it because they're so good. And if not, fuck it. I'll tell it to you. But I did warn you, goddammit. Some great kill scenes. One of them is one of the kids who is haunted by Freddy. He carves and makes his own puppets. He really likes making his own puppet dolls. Well, in his dream, one of his puppets, and let me tell you, the CGI in this movie isn't terrible. It's really not. For 1987, I was pretty blown away. Now, obviously, there were a lot of, modern advancements in CGI in the late 80s. But in 87, this movie still holds up. Not according to my wife. She really doesn't like any of the Nightmare on Elm Street ones, except for like the remake. She's not a big fan of the old cheese, as far as I'm concerned. She's concerned, obviously. But this movie really does hold up. So one of the guys, and I don't know all of their names, and I don't rightly care. I mean, it's just Kristen is the main one. But one of my favorite kills is the guy that likes to make the puppets. As he's going into the dream world, Freddy Krueger actually materializes as one of his puppets. And you get to actually see a puppet Freddy Krueger, like crawling around on the ground and jumping up on Glenn's bed. And then Freddy Krueger cuts a bunch of like holes in the kid in his sleep and creates like tendon puppet strings. And he starts walking him like a puppet out of his room in the asylum. And he opens the window, and he's sitting there on the edge of the window, and Freddy Krueger is like pulling his strings like a puppet. And then Krueger, and by the way, there's 2 kids per room, and they all take turns sleeping. They have shifts, like, hey, I'll go to bed first, you watch me, and then you go to bed and I'll watch you. So during this shift, the guy who's is a handicap in a wheelchair, he's roomed with the kid who's like into making puppets, and he sees that he's sleepwalking. He's like, oh shit, he's getting to him. He starts screaming. He breaks one of the windows, and he starts screaming to the other people like, hey, he's being, Freddy's got him. So all the kids are watching this kid get walked to the ledge of the building. They're all screaming at him to wake up. They're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? and then Freddy Krueger cuts the tendons or the puppet strings, and the kid falls to his death. Of course, people who aren't a part of the Freddy Krueger, on the inside of what's really happening, think that Glenn just decided to kill himself by jumping out of the window. That's a really good kill scene. There's one of the kids that's haunted is like is an ex-heroin addict, and one of the kill scenes is Freddy Krueger's glove. By the way, this scene was banned for many, many years in a couple of European countries because it was so offensive, I guess. So really cool about that. This is one of the best ones, is Freddy Krueger's glove becomes, for each knife, it actually turns into syringes. And the chick, who is like the ex-heroin addict, is getting attacked in her dream, of course. And she, on her arms, like where there would be like, syringe points or whatever, it's like little screaming souls on her arms, like little kids like screaming and shit. And like little holes like, where you would stick syringes. And then Freddy, he actually has gloves on both of his hands this time. But on both hands are syringe needles. And he injects them into her arms and kills her through like a major overdose. Really creepy and really cringy. It is just like, oh man. If you're not a needle person, this one is really, really tough to watch. But a great kill scene. I love that one. But it is not the best one. I saved the best for last. One of the more fascinating characters is a chick who she goes through ashtrays and finds cigarette butts with a little bit left to burn. And she smokes the cigarettes and then gets them down really low and burns them into her arm to make sure she's still awake. Well, she begs one of the caretakers or nurses or whatever to let her stay up a little later and watch TV. And, of course, he gives in. He's like, okay, but don't tell anybody, or I'm not saying that this conversation even happened because I'm totally letting you take the fall. And she says, okay. So she's watching TV. She's dozing off. So she goes to the ashtray, she finds a cigarette, burns her arm. But regardless, she ends up falling asleep. Now, at the beginning of this show, you heard this kill scene. The whole, welcome to prime time, bitch. One probably my favorite Freddy line. And it's such a good line. And this is just the greatest kill scene. I love it so fucking much, man. It is so awesome. What happens is she does fall asleep, and she's watching the TV, and on TV comes Freddy Krueger. And then she's like, oh shit, it's happening. The TV arms come out of the TV, and it's Freddy Krueger, and then his head pops up from the top of the TV, and he's even got a fucking antenna on top of his head. It sounds really cheesy, but it's actually pretty fucking creepy if you watch it. And she walks up to the TV because he's possessing her, obviously. And he picks her up, and he's like, at the beginning of the show, this is your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch. And the arms pick her up and shove her head first into the fucking TV and kills her. Pretty much decapitates her. And then the guy who let her stay and watch TV comes in the room and realizes this fucking bitch is just hanging out of this TV, hanging on the wall. The fact that he was just like, holy shit, she killed herself. But he didn't even think. The bitch ran her head through a TV and she's just hanging there. How the fuck could he have, how could she have done that? But he's like, whatever. I don't know. She's talented. I don't know how he didn't red flag that, as far as like, there's no way that a human could have done that. But regardless, I think it is my favorite kill scene in the Freddy movies. It is such an epic scene. And I know there are more that I'm not really drawing in the movie, so they must not be super duper memorable, but I do want to give a lot of praise to not only Heather Langenkamp, but I want to give a big praise to Patricia Arquette becoming the new lead with Kristen. It is a wonderful character. I love Kristen. She portrays the second best girl in trouble next to Nancy Thompson, of course. She does a very, very good job. And, of course, the movie, it ends up coming down to, huge spoiler, by the way, Kristen gets rescued in the dream world by Nancy. Nancy ends up killing Freddy with his own claw. Now, before this review ends and we rate this movie, okay, before we end it, one of the best, and I think it won an award if I'm not mistaken. There is a scene that happens in the junkyard. So the guy therapist who couldn't get through to the children, the kids in the group therapy sessions, he ends up realizing that this is quite real. Like what's going on, he believes in the Freddy thing. And there's a storyline also throughout the movie where he keeps seeing a nun. Obviously, she's a ghost, but somehow he's able to see her. And the nun is Freddy Krueger's mom because he's like, the son of 1,000 bastards or whatever because a nun got raped by 1,000 prisoners or whatever. And that's kind of a little side storyline. And he's starting to realize that the Freddy Krueger, it's no longer a myth. He realizes it's real. And the father from the first Nightmare on Elm Street did not die, and it's Nancy's father. He ends up tracking down Nancy's father because he was one of the guys that helped burn Freddy alive. And he wants to know where the remains of Freddy Krueger's body is because that ends up being the sole way to kill Freddy is burying his corpse and putting him to rest. So he actually gets Nancy's father to tell him where all those parents buried Freddy's remains, but they didn't bury him. They hid the remains in a junkyard. So they go to the junkyard, and the guy therapist takes a vase of holy water to, obviously cleanse the evil out of Freddy Krueger. So he gets this little vial of holy water. He gets in the police car. Nancy's father's a policeman. They drive to the junkyard. They get Freddy's remains, and they both try to dig the hole to throw Freddy's remains in, throw the holy water on him, and bury him. So it ended up being a combined effort. The climax of the movie is Nancy fighting off Freddy in the dream world, while somehow, now this part's a little weird. It is a little weird. It kind of it deviates a little bit away from the original storyline because obviously it's not in the dream. Nancy's father and the guy therapist are trying to bury the remains, and the remains actually start to piece together. All of the bones piece together into a skeleton. And it's Freddy Krueger's skeleton, and he starts attacking Nancy's father and the therapist. And you would think that this would be super tacky for 1987. I watch it, and I'm like, man, this is really, it's good, but this must have been fucking mind-blowing back in 87, and I'm pretty sure it did win an award for, like one of the best scenes in a movie or some shit like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it is very, very cool. And obviously what it ends up coming down to is him splashing those remains with the holy water. And then in the dream world, Freddy starts where he's getting splashed. You can see his body start, getting like the solar beams where they're shooting out of himself and all this. So between Nancy stabbing Freddy with his own claw and then the therapist in the real world dousing the holy water on Freddy, killing him, they throw his remains into the grave, they bury him. And that's pretty much where the movie kind of ends. And I'm trying to remember how the movie finishes. I think it really does finish with, like, Freddy's dead. I don't remember it ending with, like, it looking like Freddy's still alive. I don't remember. I watched it, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I've watched a bunch of them since then. So it's like I'm trying to remember what happens in which and blah, blah, blah. But regardless, this really is... Oh, man, it's so close to being my favorite. It's so good. It's definitely got my favorite kills in it. And I think it has probably the most solid storyline. So maybe the first movie is just the scariest of all of them, but this one may be like the best one storyline-wise. So maybe that it would be my favorite. I'm really not sure. Damn, this rating is going to be fucking tough, and I know there's going to be dead air because I'm going to have to be thinking about it. But very good movie. I cannot recommend this one enough. If you haven't seen any Nightmare on Elm Streets or you've seen only the first one and you haven't seen this one, this is a must-watch. Hands down, an absolute must-watch of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. So everyone's been waiting for this moment. It's called Master Rating. What is my rating? So far, I don't recall exactly what I gave the second movie, but I think I gave the first movie a 7.7 out of 10. And I think I gave the second one like a 5.1 maybe, 5.2. Huge drop-off. But this one's going to be a huge uprising as far as ratings go. Is it better than the first? With me telling what I've told as far as story, effects in the movie, the kill scenes, this one might Oh, man. This is bad. This is really tough. Listen, I'm going to have to go on a whim here. I'm going to have to say that this movie, my official rating for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, 7 point. If I do it, it really does like Noah's fans out there, Nightmare on Elm Street, by the way. Nightmare on Elm Street fans are gonna like either crucify me. I don't really give a fuck, but they will either crucify me, agree with me, or just tell me I'm off base. But oh man, it's okay. Fuck it, I just got to get it out there. I'm gonna give this one a 7.9. 7.9. Burn it in. I think it's better than the first one. I think I enjoy it better than the first one. 7.9 out of 10. That is my official rating for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. 7.9. All right, guys, that is it for episode number 3 of Master Rating. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. If you like this one, check out episode 1 and 2, the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies that I've covered. Next week, I'm dropping 4 and 5, The Dream Child and the Dream Master and the Dream Child. Not great. I will go ahead and give you a preview. Not great. Going to be fun to talk about, though. There's still some cool kill scenes, though, so it's all good. They're not as bad as Freddy's Dead, but don't worry, I'll get there. I will get there. We will get there. If you enjoyed Master Rating, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the program. Give us a 5-star review. Let me know what your rating is to this movie in the comments section below or on Twitter. Let me know what you rate this Nightmare on Elm Street. Let me know. And also, please send me suggestions for Halloween movies or horror movies to cover for October. I'm absolutely open to suggestions. Let me know what you think. But most importantly, let me know your rating for this movie. And by the way, if you're a big sports fan, go no further. JB Sports Radio, that is our milieu, our main subject matter for this network, JB Sports Radio. For more information, go to jbsportsradio.com. But the main thing is subscribe to the network. Follow us on Twitter at JB Sports Radio. We're also on Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the place. We're also on YouTube. Like I said, we're fucking everywhere. You can't get away from us. We're like the common cold in the fall, baby. All right, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for episode number 3 of Master Rating. I am JB. I will see you next week for another episode of Master Rating. And until then, take care.